requirements and to hear and render decisions on interpretations of the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The board consists of 5 voting members. It requires 4 affirmative votes for approval of any variance or interpretation. All cases on the agenda will be heard in the order listed. The order of proceeding for each case shall be as follows. Applicant shall present his case. Persons in favor of the variance shall present their evidence. Persons opposed to the variance shall present their evidence. The applicant shall be given a rebuttal period, and the public hearing will be closed and no further testimony will be accepted. The normal procedure is that the board will discuss and take action on the application. Excuse me. All meetings of the board are open to the public. Anyone in the audience who thinks for any reason they will speak before the board tonight, please stand and take the oath. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth in all matters pertaining to the cases before the Board of Adjustment? Please say, I do. Please be seated. Thank you. All right, here's the roll call. Roy Brown.
Here.
Gene Ogle.
Here.
Jack Lehman.
Here.
Dan Sunderland.
Here.
And Robert Jones. That's me here. The first on the case on the agenda tonight is case number 19-999-04, Mike McMurray, a variance request to fence requirements on the property at 1510 South Baker Circle. And I guess we do the video first.
Okay, this is the, we're looking to the northwest slightly. This is the house that's on the north side of the property on Walnut, faces Walnut. Here as we go, kind of wind around to the, again, that's the house that faces Walnut. So we wind around to the southwest. This is the garage that's in the backyard. And this is the fence, that's the issue. And we're looking to the southwest here, down to the, there's the gate in the fence, and there's the corner of the property. And those are duplexes off in the background there. Kind of make a look to the southeast and then to the east at another single-family home. And we're looking down Walnut there to the east. Okay, and then I have another one here. Okay, here we are at the, we're looking north down Baker Circle to the north, obviously, north down. And there's the fence, the side of the fence, right along the street that's on the property line that's too close to the street. And then we wind around as Baker turns and shifts to the southeast. Here we go along here. You can see where the fence sits on the rear property line. And that's the closest building is that duplex off in the distance. And the fence should be even with or behind that duplex, which is about 15, 20 feet back from the street. Okay, we're going to go around again. You can see the duplexes are in this subdivision are pretty much all the same. And across the street again. And this is a 6-foot wooden picket fence or privacy fence. You can see the accessory building garage there. And there's the gate again. So the applicant seeks some variances to basically for the fence sitting on the east property line and on the south property line. Otherwise, he'd have to move them further back. Public Works is also requiring him as a separate action that's not part of this to cut the corner, I guess you could say, off of that, off this, because this is the site triangle issue here.
Is that right here, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do we have someone here that's representing the owner or the applicant? So, you could come up to the podium and speak, give us your name and address and so on.
I'm Mike McMurray. I'm the owner of that 1209 East Walnut, and I believe it's, 1510 Baker's Circle. What we did there, the reason, well, for one, I didn't know if I broke any rules or laws. There was an old chain link fence there, so I put a privacy fence. The garage has been broken into a few times, and then the HVAC unit and stuff stole out of the house, so I put up the fence, because right across to the north there, some apartments, don't know what kind of people lived there, but they liked sticky fingers. And so on that security fence also, or privacy fence, is security cameras. So kind of got tired of stuff being stolen. But like I said, I didn't even know I needed, or that was anything, because all I did was put it right where the chain link is. But if you guys approve to let it stay, I will go, the utilities, is that right? Department, Public Works is wanting the 25 feet triangle cut, and I will do that. You know, I didn't do it yet because I didn't know how you guys would vote to let it stay or not. But if you vote to let it stay, then I'll get the 30 inches tall by 25 feet either direction.
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Did you follow exactly where the footprint of the chain link fence was when you put up the privacy fence?
Yes, sir, I did. In fact, I stopped short on around by that one duplex on the west side. As soon as we rounded the corner right there, I stopped because you can't see the yard from the road. If you see right there where his pickup's at, as soon as it rounds the corner, I think I went 10 or 12 feet and then I stopped. So really from the road, you can't see anything except for that double gate, but I followed the exact footprint where the chain link was. And when I bought that, I don't know if the original owner put that chain link up. I don't know. Nobody seems to know.
Okay.
How tall was the chain link fence?
I didn't measure it. I'll say 36 inches. There's one of those original gates,
Okay.
but I didn't measure it.
So the sticky fingers could jump over the fence?
Yes, yeah. I mean, they could have. And then with having that, because I store stuff in that garage, me and my family does, that way they can't see what's going in there or what's being stored in there when the door's around on the other side. But correct, they can't jump that 6-foot fence. Except for, I guess now if they wanted to do the gate, they could, but I keep a heavy chain and a big old padlock on it, so.
So, there's the where you're gonna cut off the, kind of like a triangle there, is that when you're gonna move, and remove that part of the fence and put in 42 inch or whatever it's gonna be, or 36 inch?
Yeah, I think the requirement from what I was sent in the mail is 30 inches. So I'll leave the privacy fence right there, measure up 30 inches and just give a nice straight cut, 25 feet both directions so it won't obstruct. I think if I read it right, it had to be 30 inches or see-through. So if I do the 30 inches, I can just leave the privacy fence, make a nice square cut, and it'll be out of the line of sight.
All right.
So you're saying they would let you leave the privacy fence if you cut it down in the corner? Is that what you're saying?
It's two separate deals. I think you guys have to let me leave the privacy fence. Public Works says if the fence is left, I have to do that 25 feet either direction. Since that's a corner right there, traffic can't see to clear it.
Sure.
But here again, I wasn't aware, I don't even know if the city was aware of that, because that just came to light here about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Sean Carter from Community Development, who does things like this, looks for issues like this. His letter said basically it was a violation of the city code to maintain any obstruction in the right-of-way that creates a sight line issue for traffic. You are required to either remove or modify, just keep the height of the fence below 30 inches. The fence to ensure proper line of sight. The location map and shows, and that little triangle is shown on your little diagram that was provided to you. Like I said, that's a separate issue. What you're to discuss is the other two parts of it. The part along, I call it the east part and then the south part, that's outside of the triangle.
Now that-
Otherwise, you'd have to move it in.
I have a couple questions. I know that it's more for the city, and I don't know if we want to wait on those or ask, but I'm a little confused on the codes as it relates to if they had a swimming pool, you're required to actually have a 5-foot fence or greater?
I believe the city health department requires a 6-foot fence with self-latching, self-closing gates.
So, but yet on here it's saying that a fence can only be 36 inches high. It's kind of contrary, isn't it? Or I'm just kind of,
Well, there's no security issues with, there's no pool to drown in.
well, right, but I'm just kind of, if there was a swimming pool, then it needs to be higher than what they're calling out. And this kind of thing is what,
Well, they should not, hopefully they got a permit to build the pool.
well,
And then when they did that, then we'd put the fence where it was supposed to be.
right.
So,
That's kind of what I was wondering, is just a little confusing on that kind of thing, personally on that.
And the
But-
pool's supposed to be set back from the side property line, a certain distance anyway.
Right.
the fence is supposed to be set back from the property line, or can it be on the property line?
No, it can be, if this was not a corner lot, this is kind of unusual because it's actually a 3-corner lot, if you want to call it that. It's supposed to be even with the edge of the barn. It's not supposed to, a fence over 30 inches or 36 inches is not supposed to be in the front yard, which in this case would be this side here on the right that you're seeing where the gate is. And then the parts actually on both ends, well, more or less on the north end. And then here on the south end, after you cut back 25 feet, the other part of the variance comes in, which is it should not be projecting in front of the house on the next lot, which is the duplex that you saw on the, but as you can see from this thing, how close it is. I mean, it really, if it was straight, it would be easier to see how much more it is in front of the house than at this angle.
So the fact that he has 3 sides of his property on
That's
roads
correct.
is really an issue more than, I mean, if he had one side, this would be back fence. It wouldn't be nearly the issue that it is now.
If it was a lot in the middle of the block, that's right.
I think some of it too, from my understanding, actually, that's a double lot with 2 separate addresses. So I think some of it on this back half, they're considering a front yard. But when we bought the place, we considered it a backyard at 1209. So actually, that back portion is called 1510 South Baker Court. So I think that's where a lot of this violation or whatever comes into play, from my understanding.
Well, in this case, we interpreted it to be 1 lot. Even though it's really 2 lots as such, it's always served as been considered 1 lot. And so we have provisions that relate to through lots, which is as such because he's got frontage like this. And that's the second variance that comes into play.
Have we had anybody call up on this?
I don't recall any phone calls, no.
Okay.
The house is the 1209, is that the Walnut?
Yes, sir.
Address, Walnut Avenue?
Yes.
But the accessory building is your garage, is that what it is? It's part of the,
Yes, and nobody really knows where the property line is there, or if that's it on that paper I have, it goes right through the center of the garage. I'm not sure if that's the property line or not, so.
Yeah, I don't know. Somewhere close to that, I would think, but I don't know for sure.
but it's all really one, even though there's 2.
That's how we consider it, but it has 2 separate addresses from what we're told.
Okay, all right. So, does the city, Stuart, you're gonna cut off, you're not gonna take anything out, you're just gonna cut it off? You can do that with the fence, is that what you're saying, as far as where you cut it down to 30 inches or whatever it's gonna be?
For the
Or-
public utilities,
or-
yeah,
or-
on their triangle, 25 feet, we'll have to go to the west and north so they can get their line of sight But yes, I was gonna, just lower, make it 30 inches up from the ground is what I
Okay.
believe they're saying, no higher than that.
Okay, and then you're just gonna warp it into the other, then I guess the rest of it'll stay where it is.
Yeah, everything's gonna stay where it is, and I'll just literally snap some chalk lines and take a saw, lower a board to keep it braced, and then just cut off the 25 feet from each direction,
Okay.
and then just keep
And
everything.
that would
how it
allow
is.
your thieves to be able to jump over
Yeah,
that.
that'll give them something nice to jump on, but, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, but we do have security cameras up, so hopefully,
But in theory, okay, with the exception of the height, if the one is a 25-foot break in that fence allowing for the lane sight, let's ignore the height of the fence at this point, and just say that the side obstruction, if he has that 25-foot triangle, that's gonna take care of that, irregardless of the height of the,
Well, it takes care of part of both
Right.
variances.
so, but the second is and the primary is the overall height and type of fence that's there.
That's right. It's
Okay.
the height and then the non-transparency.
So the 6 foot is the problem too, all the way around too, is that what you're saying?
That's right. It should be anything that's in the front yard and these are
Has
more
to
or
be
less.
transparent or,
Yeah, and 36 inches. Chain
36.
link, split rail,
so we
wrought
have
iron,
two
that sort
issues
of thing.
here. Even
That's
if he
right.
cuts down the other part, you still have the height of the,
well, and that's what I was
be
saying,
easy.
even though he keeps saying front yard, that we consider that the backyard to the house, because it's
Right.
one lot. So I think that's where the two separate addresses has kind of thrown a loop in this whole thing.
Well-
It had one address.
Well, my mistake. That would be considered the backyard, but it's a through lot. So the fence is supposed to be pushed back to where it's more or less even again with this,
Okay,
this building next, down the, see, it's how close it is to the building to the, west.
So we ultimately have two decisions, first based on the height, and then the second along this
Well,
angle.
it's more like a decision for the, east side and then the south side.
Yeah.
Because he could move those back and, still keep it a 6-foot privacy fence.
He could move it back how far?
Well, on the east side, it would have to be even with the
The garage?
garage, the accessory building, which
That
is
seems-
right there.
Pretty dramatic there. You'd lose a lot of,
yeah, that's 25, 35 feet right there.
So basically cutting the property in half, the usable amount that he's protecting.
Well, unfortunately, that's where the building is. I mean, that's,
so he can move it back, but he'd have to go back several feet close to the actual building itself, the garage. Is that what you're saying?
That's
On the
right.
north? And he'd have to do the same on the,
on the south, I don't
So-
think it would go back as far and, yeah,
That is assuming we don't give him a variance to keep it where it's at.
that's right. We'd have to
Okay.
work with the applicant if you guys denied his
That's
request.
what I was thinking. I'm done with the questions, so I think.
so what would be the setback requirement for that garage if, could it be, it would have to be what, 15 feet, 20 feet from the right-of-way line?
Well, it should be even with the house under current regulations. It's roughly that now.
Okay.
Can't really tell from,
So
tell from the aerial, it looks roughly even with the house. Had there not been an accessory building, it would still need to be about in the same position. Because our regulations say that there shouldn't be any fence over 36 inches. In this case, it would be east of the house and north of the house. Now, in the rear, in the through lot part, it could be down at the bottom on the south end, but it would just have to be further back than it is now. Back being north.
how far back would he have to move that fence on the south to be in compliance?
Well, I think the code says if you, where the rear property abuts a street where the principal building on the adjacent property fronts, it should be no closer to the street than the established building line, which would be, I don't know, I'd have to look in this case, but I think it's like 25 feet.
so in
20
other words,
feet.
it'd have to be back.
It would be north of
You've got the
that.
curb and then you have the,
Yeah, so it's
right-of-way
really hard to
distance.
say at this time, but somewhere around that distance.
So possibly it's on the property line itself, is that what we're saying here?
That's what we can
Where it is
discern,
now.
yes. Yes,
And it'd have to be moved to the north
that's correct.
to meet the criteria that you all have on your ordinance.
That's right.
So he's gotta move it both,
Yeah, west and north.
so, and then how far west would he be moving it to?
Well, whatever the
Another-
edge of the garage and the
It's
house,
about 30 feet.
even with that.
So you'd almost have to have it. What would
Yeah,
it-
maybe
it'd
20
almost
feet,
be at the
25
corner.
feet, something like that. I can't really
So
tell.
it'd be almost basically at the corner of the accessory garage, right?
That is correct, yes.
That's to meet the standards that are part of the ordinance.
That is correct.
But remember, we are the committee here to discuss this, so let's,
Right.
I don't have more questions. I think we do need discussion, but.
So where you have that fence 45ing next to the duplex, which is south and west of you, what are you running into there? Is there a fence there or what?
Yeah, we followed the exact same footprint. All we did, we left the rail up even. And that's right at that corner, it cuts right back and ties into the adjacent properties back there. And that's where there's a bunch of brush and stuff right there, so I
Yeah.
stopped with the privacy fence. But that's, like I said, we left the top rail and the post. We just took down all the chain link and put that fence up.
And so what is on the west? Is there a fence there on the west where you've got those trees and brush shown on the aerial?
Yes, there's a bunch of brush right there, and so I haven't messed, and it's chain link, and I haven't messed with it because it's a bunch of overgrowth,
How tall is that fence?
36 inches.
Oh, it's 36 too.
And here again,
That's a normal chain link.
3 foot.
yeah, it's the original, all that fence was the original, like I said, we just took that section down because when people were driving slowly down the road to keep them from seeing, what is in the shed there, or the garage.
Okay.
I guess I would have one more question. The brush that's back there becomes a natural barrier to keep people, or the issue is much more that they'd come along the road, jump the fence, steal what you had, get on the road and take off in the past. Is that the way that worked?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, the brush, it's more than just a little bit of brush. I mean, it's a pretty wide
okay.
deal of brush, and we just stopped right there.
It's like 15, 20 feet to me.
Okay.
So like you say, we have two issues here, moving and height, is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So,
If there's any opposition here.
yeah, well, are we ready to, I guess he's pretty well. No, we have to ask if there's anybody here that says he wants to. Well, I think maybe right now we've got enough information from you, Mr. McMurray.
Okay.
Is there anyone here in the audience that would speak in behalf of that's opposed to this variance? Okay, so
I can sit down.
you can please sit down there, Mr. McMurray. Okay, give us your name and address if you come up to the podium, whoever's going to speak in behalf.
Either way.
Either one of you, it doesn't matter.
My name is Rachel Horn. I do not live in Independence, but I am the manager for Baker Circle Rentals and Midwest Rentals. And so the owner owns 8 of the 13 duplexes that are on Baker Circle. I'm not here to necessarily speak for or against. I more have questions and observations that I'd like to share, or concerns maybe. I appreciate the comment about the line of sight. That's been a concern that's been expressed to me because of the kids and the bus stop and the traffic, going in and out of the gate. So I think that the line of sight is a very important topic, and I appreciate you guys addressing that. In terms of the of the fence, you guys discussed the east side and you discussed the south side. The west side there, I was on the property, I don't know, this year. I've been on the property multiple times, but when I was at 1520, which is that duplex right there, and 1522, I observed that you could see straight in through to through the chain link fence, you know, and so in terms of the residents there and in terms of property values, you know, there's two concerns that I might have about the whole situation, which is that people don't really want to see into the, you know, into the property there. So in terms of whoever's residing there, that would be a problem. And when I, you know, was reading the materials, I didn't know exactly what the discussion was about the fence. I thought perhaps there was a request to put that, it would be more like southeast portion on. So that's why I was coming, you know, to get information to learn what the discussion was about. And then in terms of property values with a commercial enterprise, I honestly did not realize, even though I've managed these properties since 2007, I didn't realize it was two properties until I got on, you know, the Jackson County website, and I was surprised to find that 1510 existed. But when I look at it, I see that 1510 cuts right across the building of the garage. But I'd always considered it to be one piece of property myself. I didn't know it was two. You know, so I guess to just boil it down, concerns about the kids at the bus stop. You know, residents need to know that their children are safe. That line of sight, if there's kids on bikes and someone's coming around the corner, they need to be able to see it. I do want to say that of the 8 of the 13 duplexes that I manage, I guarantee you that none of our residents are the sticky finger people. I can just unequivocally say that. I would live next door to any of them. They're all great people. So that's not where the sticky fingers are coming from. I have to put that out there. So those are my questions and concerns about the whole question and project. So I'm not.
I've got a question real quick
Sure.
for you. You referenced the bus stop. Where is the bus stop for the, I mean, does it stop on Walnut or does it come on to the Baker Circle?
My understanding is, and I'd have to ask, you know, to verify, but my understanding is that it's at the corner of Baker Circle and Walnut, but I would have to verify.
It is actually across the street. You can't turn around.
Do you want to come up here and
I'm sorry that I
speak?
don't know the answer to that question.
Give us your name and.
My name is Jamie Blake, and I'm actually resident at 1522 Baker Circle, the same property that's in question here. The bus stop itself this school year is across the street on the other side of Walnut, but the children do still walk to the bus stop. And as we're all early morning going to and from work and dropping kids off different places, it gets congested up there at that curve. And one of the big concerns we've had, and probably our biggest concern of all, is how blind of a corner that has become. It is a dead end, so we have people that will pull through to pull and turn around. You know, there's been a lot of concern with the bike riding, things like that. There were kids that lived up at the house on the corner that would come down to us. They stopped doing it because they were realizing that it's just not a good place to, you can't hang out on the corner over there. It's just not safe. We had to hammer that through their heads to get them to that point, but they realized it wasn't a good idea. So they play a little further down the cul-de-sac. Our lawn maintenance crew that comes in the summer has a large trailer that takes care of the properties that they've got contracted. They are around the corner during the summertime as well, so we would have that larger piece there for however long it takes them to care for the lawns. So anytime, you know, we had a water main break, and so there was construction equipment and things, they were trying to fix that, you know, essentially locked us all into our cul-de-sac because we had that blind corner. Nobody wanted to take the chance of trying to leave. And we're right there at the top, so we probably could have scooted out, but it's just.
I have a quick question. In your opinion, that the line of sight is the issue, that if the 25-foot diagonal was cut, would that solve the, irregardless of the fence, but would that give you the visibility you guys are thinking you had, or?
If I'm understanding what that would look like correctly, I believe that would be a amicable, resolution to it.
Okay.
If I had my druthers, I'd like the fence gone. It does not need to be that tall. I don't know if, I can see that this is a fairly recent photo because you can see the utility markings where they had just dug up the water main. Prior to that, where we can see through the remaining chain link where he was talking about the brush, there's a lot of debris and things back there from what they stored back there prior to having removed some equipment and trailers and things of that nature. So, from our side, we get the ugly part of it. We don't get to see the wooden privacy fence other than the side that's actually there. We're seeing the other part. So my question with the variance is that the entire fence along the property line that he's requesting the fence for, or is this to finish off the part that's not currently fenced? It sounds to me like it never went through the proper channels for it to go up in the first place. Is that correct?
Well, the question is the height and the type of the fence, where it's at, and the line of sight. They haven't talked about closing up the back next to the duplex, and I think they could probably do that because that wouldn't be the backyard. That would be completely related to this altogether, but,
So yeah, my question then was this variance request, was this in regards to the entire property being fenced, or?
Just,
From the sounds of it, it looks like nobody asked if it could be put up, they just did. Is that what I'm understanding?
yep.
you're not required to get a permit for 6 foot or under fence in a residential area.
Okay.
And these variances regard the east property line and the south property line.
Does, Stuart, if the fence is cut off there at the triangle and so forth, would that meet with the cities what they want done, or do they want the fence to move?
Well,
Whereas, I'm just trying to figure out, this is not all that, it's a little more complicated than.
what Mr. Carter said in his letter is that you are required to either remove or modify to keep the height of the fence below 30 inches to ensure proper line of sight. So it's up to the applicant whether he wants to cut the fence down or move it out of the triangle.
Okay, but then is that,
That's a different issue, though.
It's
That's
a
not
different
something
issue.
that you're voting on. You're just voting on the remaining side and the south side.
But ultimately, the obstruction is at 25 by 25, which they've asked him to move that back, would allow for that open line of sight. So we're primarily thinking in terms of whether or not the fence should be there and allow him to have a variance for that or not. So,
is on the south fence and I guess you call it the east fence, they're pretty much on the property line, I'm assuming, is that correct?
From what
And-
we can tell, yes.
And we don't know exactly where the property corners are, do we?
No.
So, but you're saying to meet the criteria, it shouldn't be on the property line, is what you're saying, the fence.
For that high of a fence that's non-transparent, that's right.
But if it was transparent, it would be all right to be on the
And
property
30
line?
inches in height.
30 inches.
36 inches for,
36.
Okay.
then it would be okay.
unless we give him a variance for it.
So I have a question of one of you ladies. You don't like looking into the brush from 1622, but how about when you're driving down the road towards your house, you look to the right, you used to be able to see through the fence and see whatever that was at that time, correct?
This privacy fence is not on the Walnut side. I mean, it's not on Walnut, it's on Baker Circle.
I know.
You come
When you come down
around-
Baker Circle, before he put that fence up,
It was just a
what
chain.
what you objected to of seeing, could you not still see it when you looked through the lower fence? Could you not still see that brushy area that you don't like to see?
But the difference between brush is that, like, when it's all dead right now because it's in winter, you can still see through it.
Well, that's
A
not my,
6-foot
I understand
a 6-foot
that.
privacy fence completely blocks me from being able to see what's going on. I can't see if there's a trash
No.
truck coming, other than if the flashing lights are on.
Are we,
That's not my question.
excuse me, are we talking about the southwest side, or are you speaking about the line of sight on the road?
My question involves the south part of the fence. When you're driving down Baker's Circle, before the privacy fence was there, you could turn and look to the right, and you could see whatever it is that you object to, correct?
Correct.
Now you can't, but you can still see it from your house, your duplex.
There's an unfinished section
Correct.
that
and
does
so-
not contain
right.
the 6-foot fence
Right.
he's
No, I
talking
understand that. So my question is, since the fence is now there, you don't have to see the objectionable view as you're driving to your house, but you still see it from the house, which is, we're not dealing with that. You know, whether he puts a fence here or not, I think that could be a full-height fence, could it? Could that not be a 6-foot fence if he put one there?
If that's an internal side or, you know, a
Yeah.
side property line, yes, he could do that.
So that's another issue that you could take up with him if he wants to do that in the future. That doesn't involve us.
Okay. My main complaint that I've had was the fact that he had commercial vehicles and all kinds of other things, and there's a court case pending on that part. So I'm here today to try to figure out whether the fence is gonna stay or whether it's gonna go, or if it's gonna get cut down. So that's why I'm here.
Sounded a little bit like, and I'm just interpreting what you said, the line of sight or the side obstruction around the corner is one of your biggest objections at this point.
Yes.
And so if we separate those two just for the moment, what they were saying is moving that thing back 25 feet, giving a 45-degree angle over onto that is one thing. Giving the line of sight obstruction so it wouldn't be there, so you can see around the corner all the way around, is really where you're at. It's not so much, I mean, everything else with the privacy fence or not, you'd like to have, if it was not,
And
see what he's
people have
got.
backyards, we all have
Yeah.
junk back there. It's not,
Exactly.
I'm, you know, we don't have a lot in ours because you got a little tiny backyard. But because it's not an actual residence and it's a half of a garage, I mean, because like she mentioned, the two properties, the property line for 1510 cuts right through the middle of the garage that's on 1209 Walnut.
Right.
So whether they know that or not,
Yeah.
it's, you know,
I
there's
think
not a
that's-
house that's
right.
sitting right there for me to say, this is the front yard, this is the side. I'm looking at an empty lot that has gravel that's been put in there and all kinds of other things because of what they were using it for prior.
Sure. So I think what the city was saying is that they see it as all one large piece of property, if I'm interpreting it right, at this point. So whether or not that's its own property, it's a little different issue at this point, but.
I
You
can't
guys
say that the
prim-
fence itself is actually only on the property that's deemed Baker Circle. So
Right.
that's why that's
Exactly.
the primary location that they're referring to.
Aside from the fact that you have concerns about what used to be there with vehicles and so forth, and you have a concern for the safety of the sight line, if those things are solved, do you have a problem with the way the fence looks or the height of the fence?
I would have an opinion about, and I'm listening, making sure I understand what the terms mean. If you say cut back or cut down the fence, and
Well-
a variegated height would be an unfortunate thing, and a angle, 45-degree angle with the same height would be more sightly in terms of, if that's referencing anything that you're asking.
I'm trying to assess the aesthetics of looking at the fence from the neighbor's point of view. If, for example, he did cut the fence at a 45 so that you could see around the corner, you wouldn't have the sightline problem. Do you have a problem with the fence, the way it looks? Forgetting the fact that you don't like what's been going on behind the fence, just looking at the fence, which is what we're looking at, do you think the fence is ugly? Do you think it looks better than what was there before?
Well, it was an old ratty chain fence, a chain link fence, so yes, I mean, they did a pretty good job of putting that fence up, other than they stopped at the brush line for whatever
Right.
reason.
Now,
You know, I don't know if
you've
that's
made that
because
point.
brush is on this side, brush is on that side, I don't know what that, you know.
So
But, no, the fence itself is a nice fence. It's not like he used repurposed wood or something, and it's not, you know, it's not graffiti ridden or anything like that. So, the fence itself, at 6 foot tall, if it was going there, other than the issue with the line of sight, I don't have a problem with that.
okay, thank you.
I don't have any more questions.
If we do the sight distance thing and cut across there with a 32-inch or 36-inch, does that take care of the city's thing here? I mean, are we still dealing with,
Again,
it's on the property line rather, I mean, it's not on the property line, it's, I guess maybe it is, but they should be back further is what you're telling me. So I
Yeah.
don't know what, I mean, this thing's,
the board has no involvement in the site triangle.
Right.
It is the parts along the east and south that are not in the site triangle. So on the south, it would go back, the south line would go back 20 feet or so. And then the east line would go to the west.
so in other words.
20
you have-
feet or whatever it
You're
is.
talking about going to the property, actual property line, not the, where it is now, for both
Ye-
south fence and the west, and the east fence. Is that correct?
Well,
To
the
make it closer
east
to-
fence line would go back to where the shed is, or the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the south line that we're seeing here in the video would go north maybe 10 feet or something.
So, okay.
And that's separate from the site triangle completely.
Right.
If we don't have any more questions for them, they can sit down. I mean, unless you have more statements to make, or?
Did you have any
No, I
thoughts?
was just wanting to make sure that I understood correctly that the, whatever changes were made to the fence, it would still be the same height? Or is
That's
that-
what we're
That's something that you're discussing, as to whether or
discussing.
not it could, depending on where it is. Because if there's, you know, commercial items and whatever, certainly I would assume that folks on the cul-de-sac would prefer to not be looking at it every time they came in and out.
Okay.
So that's just the preferences, so.
But you understand that what we're dealing with is the height and location of the fence. In other words, to meet the city standard, he would have to cut that fence down in half all the way across.
Right,
You'd still
which
be
is-
able to see what's on the other side, and he would have wasted a lot of money.
Which would be unfortunate in terms of the aesthetic of it.
So you would just as soon see, if we decide the fence could be where it is and be as high, you would rather see it 6 feet than cut down into 3 feet.
I would, assuming there was a way to address this corner right here, this.
No, yeah,
southwest
there is a
corner.
way, but that's not what we're supposed to do. I mean, you know,
That's kind of a given.
that's somebody else. We all agree that that should be done.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
No, we gotta, he needs to rebut.
Okay, so, Mr. McMurray, do you want to come up and have a rebuttal of what you told us earlier about what you're trying to do in there?
Well, it sounded like the only gripe was that I didn't finish the fence, if I'm correct.
Mr. McMurray, can you be a little closer to the microphone there?
That I didn't finish the fence, and that's because I ran into a lot of brush back there, and that's on both sides, and I'm not gonna clean up neighbor's brush. Now, if they wanna clean it up, I'd be more than happy to take it another 20 feet, but I'm not gonna clean up brush on their side, you know, when I don't need to. And
Was there a fence there between your line and the first duplex there, 1520 and 1522, or was it just, you just did it by eye? I mean, when you went
No,
up to the
there-
northwest?
No, there's
still
still
there.
a fence there.
It's still there, so it, is a
Yeah.
fence all the way around the, all
Yeah, the
four
fence is all the way around.
your property?
When you turn that corner right there, about, I'm gonna say 12 to 15 feet, we tied the chain link into the wood fence and left that chain link because that's where it starts getting real brushy.
Okay,
And then me to the neighbor to the west, there's a lot of brush right there.
yeah, I see that on the aerial photo. Is that fenced up through there, or is that just open?
No, that's fenced.
So it's fenced all the way, your property's fenced all
That's
the way?
chain link, yes, correct, it is.
Chain link all the way around
Mm-hmm.
it?
Yeah, the wood fence is shown as the darker line that's over there by the duplexes.
Okay.
It goes up about that distance.
But the rest of it is
Chain
up
link.
to, from south to north up to Walnut, and both west line, east line, you've got a chain link
Correct, yeah,
fence
even
all the
in
way up
front
there?
of 1209 is chain link, everything's chain link.
Okay. This is your residence, the 1209, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the residence.
Is there anything else that you wanted to?
No, I mean, that was their only concern, and then that 25 foot's, like I said, line of sight, but that doesn't concern you guys.
Well, they also, I mean, it doesn't really concern us, but looking at this as a citizen of the
Yeah.
city, are you willing to take the same height?
I
and
could.
cut that 45, because I think that's what your neighbors would prefer.
Yeah, I could do that.
And it
That's no
would- We
problem.
would all agree that would look better.
Yeah,
Cutting it down is
exactly.
kind of
And it
squirrely.
would still be 6 foot and keep people out. So,
Yeah.
now that would, I won't be able to do it next week. It might take a couple months, put the poles and stuff, but I could do that. That's no big deal.
And you could potentially work with your neighbors on their other objection, which was, looking at the brush and all that. That's something, that doesn't affect us, but that's
Yeah,
just,
if they wanted to clean up that side so I could get around there, then I could, so.
that's part of the public record, and you potentially could work with them on
Yeah,
that.
that's no big deal.
Well, I don't have any other questions. Is anyone else on
No?
the board?
I have no questions to ask, Vince.
Dan,
No, I'm,
you, Roy? Jack? Okay, thank you. We have to make our decision now after we've had all the testimony. The public record will be closed now, is that correct? Okay. Oh, Lord.
okay,
If-
well,
If this fence were on Walnut, I would have a serious problem with it. But since it's on I don't like the term dead end, but, a no exit cul-de-sac, and the neighbors are okay with the way the fence looks, and they can coordinate with him, and he, which we don't have any say-so on how he does a fence, but he says he's willing to 45 it with the 6-foot fence. I think, I don't know, it's, when you consider the option,
Right.
it's better. The neighbors even agreed that it looks better, and so,
In other words, the only part that would become 3 foot would be just that on the
Well, we-
hypotenuse of the.
no, if we
no,
move,
no, I'm saying that he's willing to make that, he says he's willing to make that a 6-foot fence. That would please the neighbors. That really
Oh, you
doesn't-
mean 6 foot even across?
Yeah, to cut across
To
the
cut across, okay.
hypotenuse of the
Okay,
triangle.
so he doesn't have to, so it's all gonna be 6 foot. Is that what we're saying?
well, see, in the other part that I have a real problem with, I mean, the issue is there, if this was anywhere else, we wouldn't have this discussion because that's his backyard and what it be. He happens to have a piece of property that's got open on 3 sides, and because of that, he's gonna be penalized and he can't secure his property. Doesn't seem like any kind of a right thing for me. And in my opinion, moving that back, he'd lose 1/3 of his yard, at least, if not half, compared by moving, if he would be required to do that. And that, to me, is an overly reach to say, I'm sorry, you can't secure almost half your yard because he'd take it back on 2 sides.
Oh, you're talking about moving it north?
If he,
and
if
moving
he
it
had to
back.
do that, and I am not for that at all. Doesn't even seem right. So I'm gonna say that I am all for leaving it at 6 foot where it's at, and then having that 45 sightline in place, and giving him the variance that he needs to do so.
But the hypotenuse part will be shorter.
6 foot.
It'll be 6
No,
foot too.
it would be
Everything will
6 foot
just-
too.
Okay,
Close
so
the
you're
thing
just
up,
gonna
give
cut
him the
off part
ability
of
to
it and
secure it.
leave-
Yeah.
It should be
It would just give them the sight line that they're talking
So,
about that they
but
need.
Well, it's really up to the Public Works Department to work that out with the applicant.
But do we have the right to recommend that 6-foot fence follow the hypotenuse of the site triangle? Is that
I
It's-
believe
not
we do,
beyond our pay grade?
because
But
No.
there's nothing in the zoning ordinance that talks about this corner sightline issue.
no, that's a sight line thing. But if he cuts it back to 25 feet, both sides, if we give him the ability to keep the 6-foot fence, then to say that that piece would have to be 36 is a little ridiculous. And I would say you give him 25 feet both sides, you've opened the sight line
And
there,
then just leave it,
and leave it at 6
Put
feet
all the way
right
around.
there. Leave his fence alone and let him have to secure the property. And give him the variance. That is my perspective.
what's your thoughts, Roy?
Well, I'm struggling. I'm looking at the options. The options don't really work for him. The fence does provide security. It does provide visual, it has visual benefits for the neighbors like the way the fence looks. If they didn't, then I wouldn't be able to vote, but it seems like
It's an improvement over the
it's
old
an
chain
improvement.
link- over the old chain link
It's
fence
not
that was there.
perfect, but it's better than it was, and it's not a major thoroughfare, so if the neighbors are okay with it and the owner of the representative of the owner is okay with it, which I don't know why we should vote it down.
So, in other words, we just continue, this part here on the triangle will just be continued to 6 foot all the way.
I
so
don't
it's
know
all
that
common.
that's between, highly recommend that, and that's between Public Works and the owner, not us, but
Okay.
I think that would be a nice gesture between the owner and his neighbors if he were to do that. And cutting it down in the corner is
It's not gonna
stupid.
look- It's not gonna look right.
aesthetically ridiculous.
Well, the reality is that having a piece of property that you can actually protect and or make better, that everybody likes not seeing whatever he has, and at the same time being able to protect the stuff, is a
Right.
public good. And I think that that's what
That's
we're
something
actually
the
here
Public
for.
Works
Is
is-
it?
He's gonna have to work out with them, isn't he? I mean, that's what we're looking at.
That's
We're just-
right.
Well, I
I'd
don't
like
have
to
any other
ask the
questions.
applicant, what's your opinion on that? Would you just, would you rather put the fence at an angle or just cut that corner down? Would you come up to the microphone?
I'd rather do the cheapest thing possible, but it does make sense to, well, the picture's gone now, just to keep it 6 foot, but like I said, it's not gonna happen overnight. I am willing to do that. Because it would be aesthetically more pleasing to the eye. It might take a little bit to set the poles and get over there and get it done.
But you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I can do that. Now, for now, because of the Public Works, I might go ahead and cut it, because that's gotta be done within 30 days for my letter in the mail.
But
But
then
I can
later-
get in the process of setting the post and everything like that. It probably only needs 3 posts.
So you'd work with them on that?
Yeah, because I've got
But
30
you would
days to
cut
do
it-
that.
You would cut it down and then address making it just all 6 foot, right?
Exactly,
Well, you're
yeah.
probably not gonna cut it down, you'd probably just,
I'll probably just pull the
Remove the
pickets
boards
off.
Yeah, because you have more length of fence on the two sides, the two legs of the triangle than you do the
Exactly.
hypotenuse, so we actually use less material.
Yeah, but then that way, that gives me time to get that corner back up and stay out of the Public Works and get that corner taken care of.
Okay. I think that's probably, makes sense to me. What about you guys, I think?
Sounds like something we should do.
problem solved.
Do we have to make, in this particular, that what he has to do in there, is that part of the,
No,
I mean, we don't have to
Well-
address that. That's just something between him and the city, Public Works.
Yeah, you could approve the variance as requested and then recommend more or less that the fence be altered as he has discussed, as you have discussed. It
Can
couldn't
we-
be part of a recommendation, but it could be
we-
a decision, but it could be a recommendation.
Can we approve it subject to without Public Works objection, having that hypotenuse be 6 feet? Can we do that?
Can you run that by me again? I'm
Let
sorry.
me run it by myself first.
think you would-
Can we approve it, subject to Public Works not having an objection to the hypotenuse being 6 feet?
Sure, I don't think that they have an issue with that.
Okay, then that protects the owner, that protects the neighbors from some,
And it gives the direction to the owner of the property too, so
okay.
I think you're right, absolutely.
All right,
So-
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Well, do I have a motion to
You wanna make,
accept case number 19-9990-04, 1209 East Walnut Avenue, 1510 South Baker Circle, as with, what do we call them, amendments, or whatever they're called, to the conditions as set forth? Do I have a motion for that?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we, with case 19-999-04 at 1209 East Walnut, that it be approved with the conditions that have been set upon the property owner by the Public Works.
Do I have a second?
can we say that our recommendation is for that 6-foot hypotenuse as part of your motion?
That the fence
Okay.
where the hypotenuse of the triangle for the sight distance area shall also be 6 foot.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, you got a second there? All right, so we'll vote on it now, with the conditions. All right. Roy Brown,
Yes?
Gene Ogle,
I vote yes.
Jack Lehman,
Yes.
Dan Sunderland,
Yes.
and Robert Jones, yes. So, case number 19-999-04, Mike McMurray, the owner, 1510 South Baker Circle, has been approved with the conditions added to the application, right? Does that take care of us there? Okay, thank you for coming, appreciate it. Okay, our next case is case number 19-999-05, Midwest Sign Company. A variance request to sign requirements for the property at 4201 South Nolan Road. So I presume you all will show us a video
Yes.
first.
So the applicant is intending to replace this existing 25-foot pylon sign here at the northeast corner of 42nd Terrace and Nolan Road with a 25-foot tall pole sign. This, of course, is a legal non-conforming pylon that is located here right now. And a new pole sign would set in approximately the same location, which means the setback would not be sufficient from the Nolan Road right-of-way, so that's one portion of the variance. The other portion is allowing a pole sign along the Nolan Road corridor south of I-70, which is a monument sign only. So once you take down the legal non-conforming pylon sign, what would have to go back up by code would be an 8-foot tall monument sign. And this gentleman wants to put up a pole sign at the height of this legal non-conforming pylon sign.
The pylon
Okay.
sign is the one that's there now.
The pylon sign is the one you're seeing
And
right
that's
now.
25 feet high now?
Yes. So the pole sign would be roughly as large, but he would cut down another point about the existing pylon, the area of the face is actually legal non-conforming as well. And with the new pole sign, he would actually bring the square footage of the face down actually to what is required by code, so that doesn't need a variance. But
Just
the
the
fact that it is a pole sign would need a variance.
Okay, but it's the height, and as far as
So,
this part of it's gonna be.
no, it's not, well, it's the height. Pole signs are allowed to be 25 foot tall.
Okay,
He can't have a pole sign along the Nolan Road corridor. So it's allowance of a pole sign that's 25 feet tall, like a standard pole sign, on a corridor that doesn't allow pole signs. And meet the setback from the right-of-way, or get a variance for that 5-foot encroachment that's too close to the Nolan Road right-of-way.
okay.
So, real quickly, we'll go through it. I've got 2 videos. This first one is this location. And then I have the other pole sign that recently, that's on those legal non-conforming poles that used to be at the motel to the north, and we'll look at that as well, so you'll see how it's similar to what your drawings show. Okay. Now, if you look at your drawing, you can see the design. What happened here? This is the one by Jack in the Box for the shopping center that's up by I-70.
The one that
And-
you just showed there?
Yeah, and we'll spin around back in a second. And,
Okay,
and I just wanted to show that it's the same kind of brick, so it would be of somewhat similar design. A little bit different with that cross bar of brick, you know, at the bottom, but.
Now, that pole sign in the distance is north of I-70?
No, this is south of I-70.
south side.
These were legal non-conforming.
It's legal non-conforming then.
Pole that was part of that motel. This was not the motels? Okay, it was a,
The
it
one in the
wasn't legal.
distance?
It was,
this
so
is
you,
one we-
so you already granted one variance for a pole sign for this shopping center then, and then this is to do another one at 42nd Terrace then.
I'm talking about the one in the distance,
That's the one.
That's across the street to the west.
That's the motel.
That's been there
That's
for
just still
decades.
legal
That's legal
non-conforming.
non-conforming. The Five Guys was the one that's used to be the bandanas
okay,
sign. So it's
okay.
just-
okay.
But this will be similar, kind of similar to the one that's the Jack in the Box, you say? Not exactly, but the new one that they're gonna,
I think we need,
I was just showing, the sign isn't designed somewhere, I was just showing that it's gonna have that similar brick, so it's sort of the same character of materials.
Cultured
is all I was
stone.
gonna show. Yeah, the cultured stone, so. But this is the location. And actually, the existing pylon has kind of the same thing as well. Because it matches, of course, what's under the facade or on the facade of the building itself.
so. That's the sign we're talking about? That they want to change? One there
Yeah, from that to this,
to this, okay.
this looks better.
But it's, yeah, okay,
Turn it upside down.
okay. All right, do we have someone here representing Midwest Sign Company? I presume this, representing the owners, I presume?
Yes. And my name is Tony Russell. I'm with Midwest Sign Company. My address is 10302 Knoll Avenue and Oakland Park. And if you guys could give me just 1 second, I'm going to speak to Brian about something just a clarification.
So this one here is gonna be similar to the one there, only it's just.
Where is it? I think so.
Location, where
Looks a lot better.
Yeah, this one.
than what's there now.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
This is where it is now, but
You can see, I keep
Yeah, right there's where they are, right there. Right here. I think's where it is right now.
And they have to have them high enough to where people can, when they're driving by.
Yeah.
70, they gotta be able to see them.
Yeah.
You can't go with an 8-foot. Not when you're going 70 miles an hour. It's just not, doesn't make sense. Okay. This particular one.
It's up.
They're just saying it's,
I don't know who that is. That's,
Measurements are the same.
the city's saying, real late, two of their comments are saying, no, the applicant can continue to use the existing, no, the applicant could use the existing legal non-conforming signs.
You could, but it's ugly.
But it's not gonna be any higher, ours is gonna be more attractive, the new one.
Yeah.
So it's not really, the city wants him to have a sign maybe that tall, and it's not gonna work. You can't do that on
I
it.
don't know that a monument sign can be that tall anymore.
Well, I think about 8, don't they have some of them around 8 foot tall?
I think it's only 8 feet tall, and this is,
Roy,
This is
were
25.
you were here when we gave that first variance for that first sign, weren't you?
You mean the one that was just within, I don't remember, what was it, 2 years ago?
I was here, it made me mad because they were saying how they wanted to make it so that they could see Price Chopper so much that the developers would have requested it.
Right.
And all they're doing is putting more and more box restaurants in it, filling it up, so they totally lied to us about what they.
I don't remember actually.
I do, very specific,
Well, I remember we
but
had the,
I know this guy's not on this.
well, I remember we had, remember when they had a bunch of those little smaller signs that, as you went into the facility, where it could direct you to the different businesses? We okayed that one, but that's not the one you're talking about.
No, you're talking about the one with the car dealer.
No, it wasn't the car dealer, it was in that shopping center, but they were real small, that directed traffic that was in there.
Pretty sure that's one of the car dealership. Totally, cause collision repair needed a sign that they couldn't have one right there next to it, but
yeah.
I totally get that. It's kinda
So
something.
basically there was a misunderstanding, given the address of the signage on the application. The replacement sign is actually the pole sign that we were looking at on the second video, which is the one up by the interstate. So they're not replacing this sign. They're gonna replace that.
Well, this one's staying.
This one was staying. So there's been a confusion. We're gonna have to re-advertise, and we're gonna have to continue this.
Continue to the next meeting or something, is that what you're? April 18th.
Can I ask a
Yes.
question related to that, or are we just gonna postpone it till?
Yeah, they have to redo the. the
Okay.
application.
hold all questions
and Okay. everything
until then.
Sounds good.
So, okay, well, thank you for coming out. Well, I guess we will just, make
Continued.
to
We have to make
continue.
a motion to
Do we have to do that?
Yeah, you need to do.
Okay, so case number 19-999-05, 4201 South Nolan Road is going to be continued to the next meeting, which will be April the what? 18th?
That's the third Thursday of April.
Okay, so it'd be continued till April the 18th next month. So do I have a
Mr. Chairman, I
motion?
make the motion that this case 19-999-05 be continued to the April 2019 meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, we will vote. To continue, Roy Brown,
Yes.
Gene Ogle,
Yes.
Jack Lehman,
Yes.
Dan Sunderland,
Yes.
Robert Jones, yes. So case number 19-999-05, Midwest Sign Company LLC, 4201 South Nola Road, has been continued to April the 18th of next month. Thank you. All right.
Okay, next case.
All right, our next and last application is case number 19-999-06, 2807 South Blue Ridge Boulevard. And so an application for variance for the minimum lot standard requirements for the property located at said 2807 South Blue Ridge Boulevard. And so we will have a video.
Okay, so basically we have a 100-foot wide lot here that has that White House, the tan house, the parking area, the driveway, the accessory building out back, all on one lot. The applicant wants to split the property. It doesn't have the required amount of frontage, which would be 60 feet for each single-family lot, given that it's only 100 feet wide. So he needs a variance on the width on both of the lots. And then the way the lot, if you look at your drawing, the way the lot line will be drawn between that house and that accessory building, it will create a,
Easement? Right away?
I'm used to I want to say piano key lot, but that's not what we call it here at this city. Flag lot, yes.
What?
Flag lot. We'll create a flag lot out of that north property. When they plat it, they'll have to, they need variances for those two things. And of course, although it's not your purview, they'll have to get some cross-access easements, obviously, because they're gonna have a shared driveway, because the property line is gonna be running down that asphalt driveway there, so. So real quickly, we'll go through this. So we're looking south down Blue Ridge. Of course, all this side of the streets can't see Missouri, including Blue Ridge itself, and then the Independence side's right there, and looking off to the east between the two properties.
Okay. All right. So, do we have someone here that's going to represent the ownership?
Hi, I'm Jed Boffman. I'm a professional land surveyor with Powell CWM. We were contacted by Jerry Kimes, the owner, 3 months ago to do a minor subdivision plat, thus splitting up his existing property containing two houses into two legal lots, and at which time we found that this would need a variance. And so we filed the application with the Board of Adjustment. And city staff has been a pleasure to work with on this. I don't really have much else to add.
Okay. So you all have gone ahead and done the minor plat?
The minor plat application is currently in the review process with the city, with
Okay.
the city staff here.
Okay.
We're waiting for a few issues to be resolved. I believe Independence Power and Light wanted to have power directly to the second house, whereas it currently draws its power from the first house, the larger house there.
Okay,
They have 2 meters on that building.
okay. All right.
The Kimes live in the brown house there, which is whatever,
I believe so.
okay.
I believe so. That's his mailing address for us.
So has this been one of those cases where it was one particular ownership, but they hadn't split it? Is that what it was? And then they had, what
That-
am I trying to say here?
That's our understanding. It looks like years ago, a second house was built on that lot, and it never was split. And
Okay.
so you have 2 residences on the same lot.
Okay.
I made a mother-in-law quarters there, you know, they didn't want
Is that what
to.
they did?
Guest house, yeah.
Either that or teenagers.
Okay,
The pool's coming in later.
okay. So it appears that all the staff comments, practical difficulties or particular hardships has been yes on all 6 of them. So, I mean, it appears that they have endorsed what you're trying to do, I presume, is what I'm trying to say.
That's our understanding as well.
Yeah, which is a miracle. I like that one.
I have a question. Do you happen to know what the distance is from the shed to the proposed property line?
From the,
Corner
that,
of the shed?
that garage back there?
This right here is what you're
Ground-
talking,
Yeah, the garage, the shed, is noted as shed on your,
pretty close.
is it?
So the shed's gonna be part of the lot.
Looks like it would be at least a minimum of 7 feet, if I scale it, maybe.
Yeah, I believe so.
It has to be 5.
Is it 5? It has to be at
Well,
least.
code
Code is
requires 5.
Right.
So it's, okay. So the shed and the frame house there, they were
yeah,
built
that's
after
12.5.
they're newer than the one that's the white frame house down there, right? Okay,
I would imagine you guys laid this out, knowing what the setbacks would have been. And you
Right.
set this up to make sure that that was within all the
Absolutely.
standard setbacks were met, et cetera.
Yes.
So they confirm that. Okay.
Looks pretty routine to me.
Pretty-
well, as I was saying, I don't have a lot of questions because, as I made a statement just a minute or two ago, that we have to address the practical difficulties and particular hardships. For example, the number 6, the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, yes. This is true, again, the request is to regularize the existing condition of 2 residences on the property, so as to where they split them into 2, into
Correct.
one lot, 2 lots out of 1 parcel, even though it's, yeah.
Did the
I
city
don't have
get
any
any,
other questions.
get any calls on this, negative or positive?
I receive no calls.
Okay.
All right, well, do you all have any other?
I have no question.
I don't have any other
I
questions.
have to correct that. I did receive a call from somebody that lives on the street behind this. After he heard what it was, he was not opposed to it.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
okay,
Thank you.
well, thank you for coming, we appreciate your testimony. Well, to me, it's, oh, is there someone here that's in opposition?
We live behind that house, and
Okay. You just give us your name and address.
Marcia Williamson, 2814 South Westport Road,
Okay,
Independence, Missouri, 64052.
okay, did you have what was your question?
We,
Just wondering over the property line, and
You-
we have a
you-
fence back there. We didn't know if it was any, their second lot back here is very confusing to us.
The way that's configured, you mean now?
Yeah,
Well, if you see those The one that's lot 3A is the small one.
We should
And
be
they show
doing
you how
this
it
one
jogs
around here, I
around
believe.
to clear.
Right.
Okay, this is the church.
To make it,
I think. Isn't that the church?
you know, the churches are on the corner. Presbyterian Church, I think it is.
Okay, so yeah, we're just back here.
We got the notice, we just kind of wondered if it was something that would involve us and.
As far as our property.
Right, right. I don't think you have a problem.
Doesn't look like that it would, no.
Thank you for coming.
That's all, it was just kind of hard
It's
to
always good.
understand.
Sure.
Okay, well, we appreciate you coming out. We
Thank
really
you.
do.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson.
Anyone else?
So I guess, if no further, anyone else here that's, I don't see anybody else out in the audience that's opposed, and that they weren't opposed, so, we don't have to, I guess we can go ahead and close the public hearing and take a vote. All right?
Yes, that's right.
So,
I guess we need
do I have a motion to approve case number 19-999-06 PAL CWM, a variance request to minimum lot standard requirements for the property at 2807 Blue Ridge Boulevard.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right. So now we'll take a vote on the, Roy Brown,
Yes.
Gene Ogle,
I vote yes.
Jack Lehman,
Yes.
Dan Sunderland,
Yes.
and Robert Jones, yes. So case number 19-999-06, PAL CWN, a variance request to the minimum lot standard requirements for the property at 2807 Blue Ridge Boulevard has been approved. Thank you for coming out. We really appreciate it.
Bet.
All right, so we will, the approval of the minutes from the February the 21st, we'll just do that by voice. All right.
Was John here that week? Or that's the time he came, he had to leave early, I guess.
I think maybe, or was that the time, that was in January.
Thought that was the time before.
Yeah.
I didn't think that he was here for this.
I don't think he was here for that one.
But it says he was here and he.
Oh, it does?
He was, he actually seconded him,
Made a motion and seconded by John Davies.
Okay, we'll check that and
Yeah.
send them out again next month.
It was just kind
Okay,
of curious.
yeah. Well, I don't remember. I don't think he was, I don't remember John being here for that meeting, but you might check it. May have to change your, well, that's good that you checked that.
I just remembered, because I knew kind
Okay,
of before
with,
he had to
with
leave.
changes,
Maybe he was.
we'll,
One
we'll,
time he had to leave.
we'll prove it with changes, on,
We'll check it and resend it if necessary.
okay, okay. So do we need to say any more than that? Just go
No.
ahead. Those, I've already said the motion,
So we,
and by voice acclamation, do we, those in favor of approving the minutes from January, or February the 21st?
We have to do that?
Please say yes.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yes.
let us make sure that this, before you vote on them. If they're incorrect, I want to.
Oh, you want it with corrections? Okay.
Yeah, just let us check on it first.
Okay, so we won't approve them tonight?
No, just-
Oh, okay, we'll approve them in the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So, approval of the minutes from February 21st will be done at the next meeting
Yes,
on April the 18th, correct?
that's right.
Okay. So,
Just,
that being said,
we place these at your spot, and most of the items in here are good for reading. There's some Board of Adjustments that actually approve conditional use permits. Kansas City, Missouri used to do that for like a landfill or something like that. We'd go through their Board of Adjustment. I don't know in their new code if that's the case anymore, but anything that concerns conditional use permits or anything like that approved by the board, you skip over that. But the rest of it's some good reading. Says some information on, like there's use variances and then area variances. The city doesn't do use variances, it's only area, which includes height, setback, everything besides a use variance, basically. And then there's alternatives and processes, and these pages are actually 10 years old or so, but they're still good today. I mean, Missouri hasn't approved its enabling legislation for the Board of Adjustment in who knows how long. So everything's still the same.
So this is just something FYI, is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
And we may, we have some time at the next meeting, we may be able to talk about this some. Counselor, do you have any comments?
No, but I'll be happy to talk to anybody about any questions they might have.
Okay.
Do we still have the right to make, this hasn't ever come up, variance on a stream setback, for example?
Yeah, that's actually still part in the code, we just never had anybody
I
request
don't
one.
think that's ever
That
come up.
was that started 10 years ago, probably. Yeah, nobody's ever, they're able to work it out with Public Works before it ever gets this far.
Only one on public streams we ever had was out there on Truman Road where, what's the guy's name that's building we had a problem with the stream out there off Truman Road. It's been many years ago.
Was it before I came on? I
Ben,
don't remember that one.
Yeah, Ben, the builder, all of a sudden the name's gone. Bill Brewster's,
You talking about a builder, your local builder? You're not talking about Bill House, are you?
no, not Bill House, no.
He's been gone. This meeting has been adjourned.
At 7:58?
7:58. Well, thank you.